I'm tracking more rain and snow for New England the next 10 days. Let's get into the forecast now in more detail. The latest trends here on the weather map. So I want to show you the rain and snow basically coming down the weather highway. So let's get into it now so I can show you this. And this is your timestamp up at the top here. I'm going to go all the way out until mid-November. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to slow it down so you can see it day by day. So this is for your next event, which is Wednesday into Thursday. This is Thursday morning. You've got low pressure here off the coast of Maine, right off the Penobscot Bay area. Very weak low pressure system. There's enough cold air here for some snow showers here. Rain and snow showers upstate New York, snow showers northern New England, rain along the coastline of Maine mixing in. This is not going to be as much snow as yesterday. This is a weak wave on the weather highway. So you think about the weather highway, think about the ocean, think about waves. Think about small waves and big waves. This is a small wave, okay? So this is like an advisory type event at most. This is not a big wave, not a major storm, not a nor'easter, nothing like that. That is for your late Wednesday into Thursday. That's your weak wave coming through. Then we clear out for the weekend. Here is your next wave. This is more of a kind of a medium slash moderate kind of a wave out in the ocean. This is not going to be major, but it's a little bit more precipitation, a little more juice than a really small wave, right? So here's a look at this one coming through. This is going to be for Saturday into Sunday. Now, there's not a lot of cold air with this. Most of the cold air is up in Maine. This is Sunday afternoon. Here's your low pressure system, very weak. Okay, but there's a little bit more moisture, so there's snow in the central highlands heading up into the Maine. Now, the one difference with this one is, watch what happens with this Sunday into Monday. Now, this one slows down a little bit, okay, and it blows up a little bit over Nova Scotia, which is not pictured here. So there is some snow on the backside for down east Maine and the central highlands in Maine, and also in New Hampshire and in Vermont. There, you're heading way up north, okay? Head up into the Berkshires and Western Mass, and also here you see some lake enhancement going on back in New York, okay? That is for Sunday into Sunday night. Now, let's fast forward the weather highway a bit, okay? Here's another weak wave. This is Wednesday, November 19th. Once again, a small wave in the ocean, not a big wave, okay? There's enough cold air for some snow. Northern New England, rain in southern New England. That's a pretty small, weak wave in the weather highway. If you want to call it the ocean, it's a good analogy. Now, let's go out until November 21st, okay? Let's look at the trend with this one. Now, this is a much bigger wave on the weather highway, okay? Notice here, you've got low pressure. This has a nor'easter look to it. Now, I'm not saying a nor'easter is coming on November 21st. What I'm saying is here, there's a trend, an opportunity here for a potential bigger wave or a nor'easter. Once again, you're talking about waves coming down the weather highway or storms coming down the weather highway. So this one's got moisture and it has cold air. It also creates its own cold air, and it brings that cold air down, okay, with the snow. It kind of creates its own cold air. So this is not until November 21st. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that you're getting a nor'easter in basically 10 days. What I'm saying is that there's more moisture coming down the weather highway, and this storm could create its own cold air and turn into a storm that is more significant. So that's a look at the weather highway. Here's a look at what happened yesterday. You'll see here where all these little dots, snowfall, okay, reports. And Vermont, New York, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. In Maine, it was a little bit less, but definitely somewhat significant. I mean, it's still relatively weak, but it is early November. But there's here patches where you see you've got snow, a lot less up in the county. Most of it was up in Vermont. Most of it was in New York, okay? A lot less when you got down to the coastline. But you look here at the coast of Maine, there were numbers here, 1.5 inches there in Topsom, okay? So yes, this storm did produce snow that did accumulate and did stick. Now, look at the weather highway and the next storm coming down the weather highway. This is going to be tonight into tomorrow. And most of this is on the rainy side, but it is going to bring an opportunity for snow in northern New England, but it will be light. This is not going to be as much snow as we just saw, as I just showed you, okay? Not as much. Nevertheless, you've got cloud cover coming in from the west here. Temperatures are marginal, close to that 32-degree mark around Utica, north of Albany, back in western Mass. So you're going to get rain and snow mixing with this system as it pushes east. The sun that's out right now in Maine will turn over to clouds. Now, if we look at the weather highway in more detail, I can show you why these systems are mostly on the weak side here. So here's a look at a little dip in the jet stream, a little trough coming through. That is for today and tomorrow. That's that very small wave coming down the weather highway today and tomorrow. That's why it's going to be a very light accumulation, light rain and snow event. Now, let's fast forward here until the Sunday situation. This is the Sunday to Monday. Notice here, you have more storm energy here. You've got a trough here, okay, that's diving in. That's going to bring more energy, okay, into the atmosphere. There's more lift here on this map. You need lift to create that precipitation, okay? So you've got that coming through. This is your still, let's call it light to moderate weather situation going on here. There is your storm that's right over Maine on Sunday, okay? And what you'd want, if you wanted this to be all snow, you'd want this trough to dive farther south. But because it's not far enough south here, the cutoff is likely going to be right here is where you get your rain snow cutoff, okay? For as far as the cold air getting not pulled far enough south, okay? And then that pushes through into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday as your trough swings through. So that's a look in more detail at that. Now, let us take a look at that Sunday storm, and I'll show you where you have your low pressure system here. Now, it could be anywhere where the L's are off the coast. If this storm were to take more of a southerly track, you've got more snow and less rain. If it takes the track more to the north, then you've got more rain and less snow. So this shows where those L's, where the storm center would be. And right now, it is a coastal hugger, which means the coast likely gets rain from this. That's what you want. You look at this cyclone location map here, so you can see this is a coastal hugger storm, and that means it is going to be more on the wet side instead of the white side. Okay. Now we want to talk about snowfall. Here's a first look at the storm for Sunday there into Monday. Now this is really all the way from today on until then, but really for the most part, it's going to be the Sunday situation. Now, here is your look at your storm. So you've got snow mostly going to be away from the coastline. Okay, there is more here in the Central Highlands and down east in Maine because I talked about the storm slowing down a little bit and pulling some cold air down from the north. Now, heading up into Vermont and New Hampshire and northern New England, you're seeing snow. Up in Saranac Lake, Watertown, and New York, you're seeing snow here. That's the best opportunity for that storm. Now, I'm going to go out to the November 26th time frame, right? People are thinking about Thanksgiving, okay, around that time. This is a look at the trend for snow going out that far. This is a trend, an average, basically, of the computer model runs. And there's an opportunity here for some snow to make it down to the coastline, but a better opportunity the farther inland you go because it is still November, the ground not really frozen just yet. I'll have updates on that on jasonnappyweather.com. If you want to be a subscriber, it's only $5 a month. And I know it's a lot of money, but that gets you access to all these weather videos I do for Maine in more detail. So what I'm doing right now for New England, but in more detail for people in Maine. You can also follow along for free on Facebook and YouTube, and consider being a subscriber there or follower there if you'd like. So I thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk soon about the next storm coming your way.